One of my favorite hymns in our hymnal is We Laugh, We Cry. And this year I'm using our hymnal as our sacred text that I'm preaching my sermons from. And I couldn't do that and not do Shelley Jackson Denham's songs, We Laugh, We Cry, because I think this song to me expresses so much about Unitarian Universalism and about why we come here and maybe why we are here. In fact, this song seems to be sort of the song that asks those big questions. Why are we here? Why are we here in this world? But also, why are we here today? Why are you sitting in that chair today? Why did you come to this Unitarian Universalist congregation today? There are 4 verses to this song. It's rather a long song, and we're going to sing these during the sermon. So we'll sing one verse, and I'll share a little bit about it, then another verse, and another verse, and another verse. Robert, give us an introduction, and we'll sing the first verse to this song. First verse reminds me of the reading we did from Ecclesiastes. And that's why I had us read that today, of these opposites juxtaposing. What time is it? You know, is it a time to live, a time to die, to laugh or to cry? What time is it? So that's why I have the picture up here of both the mass with the laughing mask and the crying mask, and also the yin yang coming together, because it sounds like the different seasons, the different times that we have. Now, the teacher in Ecclesiastes didn't leave with just that reading that's so familiar to us. That was not the last part of that chapter even. The chapter goes on. And I'm going to share with you what he says in the next part of the chapter that you may not be as familiar with. He says, "For the fate of humans and the fate of animals is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath. And humans have no advantage over the animals, for all is vanity. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knows whether the human spirit goes upward and the spirit of animals goes downwards to the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better than all should enjoy their work, for that is their lot. Who can bring them to see what will be after them?" It's not a very optimistic reading, is it? So he's just asking these big questions and saying this is all sort of unknown. Who knows? Now, Shelley Jackson Denham, I like the way she sees it a little better. She says, "And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer." So to answer that big question, why are we here and why are we here today? One answer that she provides is we're here for communion. We come together for communion. We're here to share with one another. Now, I'm not going to pass out the grape juice today, but we still come to commune and share with one another. That's one reason we're here. Here's her second verse. We are so very fortunate to have children in this fellowship, and how delightful that was to see those little goblins and dragons and princesses and fairies all up here today and sharing with us. We really enjoy them, and they go to our RE classes, both our children and our youth, and we know that a big part of why we are here is to facilitate their growth, to facilitate the growth of these young people. But growth is not just for children. Growth is not just for children and youth. Shelley Jackson Denham says, and with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer, not just for youth, but with the grace of age. Here's a picture of me at my kitchen table. I'm sharing something I've learned to do now. When I was a child, I had a head injury when I was 3.5, and I had very poor eye-hand coordination that my mama said was a result of that injury. And when I would try to color like the other children, I never could stay in the lines. Never could. She said, that's okay, Jane. It looks pretty to me anyway, and she would put it up on the refrigerator anyway, right? But I knew I couldn't do those things, and it sort of made me feel bad. Well, recently, I was going to try to help my ex-husband out, who has Lewy body dementia, by getting him something to help him spend his time, because he gets kind of lonely. And I thought, I'll get him some adult coloring books. I saw they had those, and some pencils, and maybe he can do that. Maybe that would be good for him. I got him a couple of them. One of them was easier than the other one. One of them was harder, and I thought, I better not give him this one, but I'm going to give him the easier one. I kept the harder one, and I took it home, and I colored. And you know what I found out? In my old age, look at this. I can color. I can stay in the lines. I can pick out. This is wonderful, y'all. And it takes my mind off all those difficult things happening in our world, and it helps me. And I have learned to do a new skill at 68 years old. It's not too late. It's not too late to learn to color. It's not too late to learn a lot of things. Now, I know that there are some things I can do as I get older that I can't do that I did when I was younger. But there's some things maybe that I can do that I couldn't do when I was younger. I certainly have gained much wisdom. And so she says, and with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. We believe that growing is an answer. I'll tell you one more thing, because many of you know my mom. She's 91, almost 92. I took that first picture over to her. I said, look, Mama, I've colored you a picture for you to put it on your refrigerator. She was so proud, she framed it, hung it up on the wall. So we are here to grow, is what Shelley Jackson Denham does, to grow in mind, body, and spirit, and to facilitate growth in others. That's one reason we're here. Here's our third verse. Our lives are full of wonder, our time is this congregation has had a lot of grief in recent years. I know many of you have shared with me when your loved ones have died. We had a grief group that met for a while that shared about these kinds of things. It's hard. It's hard not only when we lose our family and human companions, but some of you've lost animal companions, and that's really hard too because we get really close to them as well, don't we? And as I've been your pastor, I've done memorial services and I've visited with many of you and I've tried to do the right things and say the right things, but you know, sometimes there's not much you can say. But I have found out that the main thing is to be there with folks. And I'm learning. I'm trying to learn how to be with people as they grieve. May not always get it right, but I'm going to share with you a little bit of what I'm learning about grief that relates to this verse. First of all, I'm learning there's no one way to experience it, no set stages to go through. So don't come to somebody and say, well, you're in this part and next you'll do this. No, you don't know. Everybody experiences these things differently. I never cried when my daddy died. I don't know why, because I cry about other things, but I never cried. Maybe it's because he had Alzheimer's and the dad that I knew had long since gone. But there's no set stages to go through in your grief. I've also learned that the most important thing we need to do is to be there for folks, to be there, give them a hug, and to listen, to just listen. I've learned that these platitudes that you see on these cards and that people share with others are pretty useless. Sometimes they even hurt. When someone says something to me after a loss that doesn't help much, though, and you know, I'm not going to repeat some of these things. You know what some of them are. I do try to look what's behind that and say, well, they're trying to say they care about me and they care for me, and this is the best way they can do it. I've learned that we need to replace the idea of closure with integration. I don't know that there can ever be any total closure on your grief when someone you love and care for dies. You'll continue to grieve, though you'll have these waves. Now, I know there can be, I hear people say, well, that they don't, you know, some of these military people, they're anxious to get them back so that they can have closure and know where they are and know where their bodies are. I understand that kind of closure, but I don't know that there can be complete closure. Instead, I think what we need to work on is integrating our grief into who we've become. Letting the pain that we have, just as when we have other pains, become a part of who we are and how we go about our lives. Maybe making us have a little more empathy sometimes with others because of the pain we have. And also to integrate those wonderful memories into our lives as well. Shelley Jackson Denham says that after she talks about grief, pain and grief, she says maybe peace within our living is an answer. And that is what we try to strive for ourselves and others when we're grieving, just to have some peace. Some peace within our living is an answer. And here is her fourth and last verse, and actually my favorite of the four. Voltaire said that people should be judged more by their questions than their answers. I love that. And I love it when I ask a question, if somebody responds, that's a good question. Because, questions are important. Many of us ended up here because we asked too many questions. And we were told that. So we had to come find some place that lifted up questioning and doubt. And we found that in Unitarian Universalism. Shelley Jackson Denham says, to question is an answer. Even to question, to understand that you can question is an answer. And she asks some of those big questions, and she tries to come up with some of the answers in her song. But she also, and we also, recognize the mysteries, and we honor those as well. The big questions, the little questions, and the mysteries. That's part of our worship here. Part of our worship is asking questions. And I say, hallelujah to the question mark. There's an old joke about burning the question mark at the UU Church or something like that. But I say hallelujah to the question mark. Hallelujah. So, Shelley Jackson's big question are, why are we here today? Why are we here today? She attempts to give some of the answers. These aren't all of the answers. Probably if I ask all of you, why are you here today? I may come up with as many answers as there are people sitting in this room, and that's okay. But she says, here are some of the reasons that we're here today. We're here to commune and to share with others. We're here to grow in mind, body, and spirit, and to facilitate the growth in others. We're here to find some peace within our living. And yes, we are here to question and to search. Those are 4 of the reasons we've come here today. I don't know what your reasons are. You can stay afterwards and share in the discussion what your reasons are for coming are. But I am so glad that you did. Blessed be.